So was it difficult for you to come to the conclusion that you were going to use your platform to expose the practices in the industry? Like, how do you know about all these practices to begin with? Because you go into detail. You go into detail. It's pretty crazy.
When I was 22, I was given a book this thick. Mm-hmm. Also being raised and learning about all these symbols and backmasking and all that stuff from when I was a child. So it's embedded in me, you know? Like I can see it, and I have a critical thinking mind, which tampers with my ability to be positive sometimes. So right now I'm balancing that because a lot of what I see is so negative, you know, because it is. But I have to, sometimes I just have to turn that off and just look at the beauty of what's around us.
So for somebody that is basically trained to see the BS in the industry, right? The terrible things. Why would you want to go into an industry like that? That's the question.
Because it's what I was sent to Earth for.
Okay. So you feel like a higher calling, like it's your purpose to bring light to it.
Absolutely.
And what kind of like challenges have you faced with coming out and saying all these things?
Just, regular people that could have possibly. But at the same time, I think I'm like, nah, anyone who's going to talk like that to me was never going to be a supporter. But, just kind of where people don't understand how the industry is run. They don't know the inner workings. They don't know what's going on. All they see is the smoke and mirrors on the outside. It can be a little frustrating dealing with people who don't know what's going on.
So you're talking about,
especially when I'm trying to put out music now and they're like, oh, well, you're just jealous because you didn't make it. And you're just saying this because you can't, like, no, I did make it. I said no.
Right. So you're talking about like the fans are doing this. This is from that perspective of like the regular consumer.
Ooh, I get a lot of heat on TikTok. But at the same time, I'm like, I'm doing what I'm doing. I never really, it was just like a friend of mine who's also an independent artist was like, hey, I think you should start spitting truth on social media. Put out a video and it just went. But prior to that, I was like in my Instagram stories and things like that, or even in person, like I would put out snippets of things and talk about it. People knew what I was onto. And when I was in New York, this is why I believe one of the twins was sent to me, because I was all over New York City in rooms and all kinds of places talking about the frequency of music. And then after that is when I was, and I talked about it too when Ralph McDaniels interviewed me. So I was on TV talking about this stuff. And then an anonymous person from an anonymous account that claimed to be an executive from Rock Nation came in my DM and started threatening me.
Okay, so yeah, that was going to be one of my questions too. But I do notice that, I don't know if you've seen it, but like on YouTube, there's this like 25-minute video of someone calling you a hater and saying, oh, you said this about so-and-so, you said this and whatnot. And so like that. Yeah. Because, I was doing my research on you and I was like, man, you don't really do that many interviews, So like I'm looking up, going through all your videos and stuff. And I saw that one and I was like, I wonder what this person is saying. And it was really interesting. So obviously you've received backlash for coming out and making comments about some of the people's favorite artists and kind of the inner circles that they're in, right?
Yes.
How has your controversial views affected you in the industry itself, like the relationships with other artists or execs, people in those positions of power?
It definitely affects those relationships, because I know a lot of people, and some people don't talk to me anymore. But it's okay. I have to do what I have to do, and I'm not here to coddle one's emotions. But I'm just here to do what I got to do. And if you don't like what I'm doing, then we can part ways, But the shift has already been happening. And what's being done is done. And I believe at some point, soon enough, those people are going to come back full circle.
And I'm sure that, people have called you crazy and whatnot because of what you're saying is like the less favorable opinion, right? The one that people don't really talk about as well. When I see you discuss these topics, you come across as very passionate and somewhat angry at times. Like, what is it in your core that makes you feel the way that you do?
One, because of what has happened to me. and seeing the inner workings and other people's stories, other people that I know, what has happened to them, seeing the effects that entertainment and the music industry, that what it's doing to our youth, seeing how a lot of these artists, it's clear to see how are government tools and they're not real artists. So that's where that's where that anger kind of arises from.
And then you were talking about the threats that you were receiving. Is this like a daily occurrence that you receive from like a lot of different instances, or just like specific situations?
Well, no, that one DM, I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of other DMs that I never found, but that one DM happened that one time. And then, in other roundabout ways, like, you've heard about Beyonce casting spells on Kim Thompson came out. And by the way, Kim Thompson also was working for the company that I used to work for, and another friend who I don't talk to anymore called her crazy. He said she showed up to rehearsal 2 hours late, and he called her crazy. And I said, bro, you don't know what's going on. I said, that's what happens when someone casts a spell on you. It tampers with your energy to where you can't even, your judgment is clouded, everything, your energy, you can't even get up. I'm like, there's a reason she showed up to a professional, one of the baddest drummers on the planet, how she can't even get herself to rehearsal for a wedding company. You know what I mean?
So how did you know that it was a person from Rock Nation that sent the message?
Because they said it. They said they were.
Really?
Yeah.
Isn't that not smart to identify yourself? That's
really dumb. Yeah. Well, there's a lot of dumb people at Rock Nation. A lot.